Captain Rodrigo and the Hidden Treasures of Lapu-Lapu. By Giovanni Stico, copyright 2025 WGA West. The shores of Lapu-Lapu glistened under the tropical sun as Johnny arrived with a singular purpose: to uncover the legendary treasure of Captain Rodrigo. Rumored to be hidden deep within the island's tidal caves, the hoard was said to include gold and artifacts stolen from Ferdinand Magellan's fleet in the 16th century. More than just riches, the treasure was tied to Lapu-Lapu himself, the warrior who had defeated Magellan in the historic Battle of Mactan in 1521. Johnny carried with him an ancient map, given to him by a Spanish collector. The parchment was torn and faded, but its markings hinted at a remarkable story. Captain Rodrigo, a pirate who had turned against his own countrymen, had forged an unlikely alliance with Lapu-Lapu to protect the islands from Spanish conquest. Together, they had hidden their spoils in a cave sealed by the tides and guarded by deadly traps. At a small cafe near the shore, Johnny met Amara, a local guide and historian. She examined the map he showed her, her fingers tracing the worn ink. "This isn't just a map," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "These symbols, they're Visayan and Spanish. It tells a story of resistance, of unity. If this is real, it could rewrite our history." Johnny nodded, a grin spreading across his face. "That's exactly what I'm here for." As they discussed their plans further, another figure stood nearby, pretending to examine his fishing gear. Lewis, the man who had rented Johnny the boat, leaned closer to the cafe's entrance. He had overheard bits and pieces of Johnny and Amara's conversation about the treasure and the map. His interest piqued, he carefully eavesdropped on their conversation. "You sure that's the cave on the map?" Amara asked, her voice low but full of excitement. "I'm positive," Johnny responded, tapping the map on the table. "I've cross-checked it with the local legends. The cave is real. The treasure is real." Lewis's eyes narrowed with greed as he listened, gripping his fishing rod more tightly. He knew about the treasure from the local rumors and had been waiting for the right moment to claim it for himself. He was no fool, and if Johnny and Amara were about to venture into the caves, he couldn't let them get there first. As Johnny and Amara prepared to leave the cafe, Lewis quietly followed them to the dock, his mind racing with thoughts of how he could intercept them. The journey begins the next morning. Johnny and Amara set sail in a small banca, the wooden outriggers slicing through the crystal-clear waters. The sea shimmered like glass, but Amara warned of sudden storms. "This is where Magellan's fleet anchored before the Battle of Mactan," she said, gesturing to the horizon. "The locals believe the spirits of the warriors still guard these waters." As they approached the islet marked on the map, the tide began to recede, exposing the mouth of a cave hidden beneath the cliffs. Vines draped over the entrance like curtains, and the sound of waves echoed from deep within. "This is it," Johnny whispered, his pulse quickening. The silent listener unknown to Johnny and Amara, Lewis had been watching from a distance. He had followed them to the dock and was waiting for the right moment. As Johnny and Amara climbed aboard the banca and pushed off from the shore, Lewis quietly boarded a second boat, a smaller, nimbler vessel. He steered it through the waters, keeping a safe distance but ensuring he could follow their path without being seen. The Cave of Wonders inside, the air was cool and damp. Their flashlights illuminated carvings on the walls, figures of warriors wielding spears, standing alongside ships. Amara paused to read an inscription: "Here lies the legacy of Lapu-Lapu and Rodrigo, forged in defiance and sealed by the sea." Deeper into the cave, they found a breathtaking sight, the remains of a Spanish galleon, its hull fused with the rocky cavern floor. Gold coins and jewels spilled from shattered chests, and ancient weapons glinted in the faint light. Johnny's breath caught as he opened a small chest marked with Rodrigo's insignia, a skull and crossed swords. Inside was a golden dagger, its hilt engraved with the names Rodrigo and Lapu-Lapu. "This isn't just treasure," Amara said, her voice trembling. "It's their story. Rodrigo didn't just steal gold, he stood with Lapu-Lapu to protect this land." The rival hunters, before they could celebrate, the sound of voices echoed through the cave. A group of armed treasure hunters appeared, their leader grinning as he stepped into the dim light. It was Lewis, who had silently followed them from a distance. His eyes gleamed with greed as he surveyed the gold and artifacts. "Well, Well. Lewis sneered, I see you found Rodrigo's treasure. Too bad it's mine now. Amara stepped forward, her hand on her knife, but Johnny held her back. We don't have to fight. Let's just take what we came for and leave. Lewis laughed, his men closing in around them. You think it's that easy? This treasure is mine, and no one is walking away with it. Johnny's heart raced, but he stayed calm. You don't have the map, he said, and you don't know the way out. You'd be lost in here forever if you tried to take it. Lewis smirked. Then you'll have to show me the way out. The trap. Just as Lewis moved to grab the chest, Johnny made his move. He triggered a hidden mechanism in the Kakalua trap that had been set by Captain Rodrigo himself. A loud rumble echoed through the cavern, and suddenly, the walls began to close in, a series of stone doors sliding shut. The treasure hunters panicked, scrambling to escape. But Johnny had studied the map symbols carefully. He led Amara and the others through a hidden passage, the same one Rodrigo and Lapu-Lapu had used to escape danger long ago. They finally emerged outside, the trap doors slamming shut behind them. Lewis and his men were left trapped inside the cave, their shouts muffled by the stone. Victory and the museum. The following day, Johnny and Amara stood before a museum on the island, handing over the treasure to the authorities. The gold, the artifacts, and the golden dagger were carefully preserved to tell the story of Rodrigo and Lapu-Lapu's alliance. Amara smiled, her eyes shining with pride. This will change everything. Our history is no longer just a tale of defeat. It's one of resistance and triumph. Johnny nodded, but had something else in mind. As they sat at a small cafe later that evening, Johnny placed a small box on the table, opening it to reveal a glint of gold. It was a single coin, one of the many he'd secretly kept for himself, which was of extremely high value. Amara raised an eyebrow. You promised. Johnny grinned, holding up the coin. I did give it to the museum. But I figured I'd keep a little something for myself. A reminder of what we've done. Amara chuckled, shaking her head. You're incorrigible. Johnny leaned back in his chair, the coin glinting in the cafe's warm light. Sometimes, the best treasures are the ones we keep for ourselves.